Stocks Market on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, joined by my co-host Kevin Hinks. But let's bring in our next guest for our hashtag segment. That's going to be Megan Brantley, Vice President of Research at LikeFolio. Welcome back, Megan.
Thanks for having me again, guys.
All right, so we're talking Lululemon. We cover this about once a quarter with you guys. You know, the stock's pulled back over 30% so far this year. What kind of data are you guys seeing out of LikeFolio? Does it equate to the fact that the stock should be falling?
You know, I think that this is one of those cases for us when we look at Lululemon that we're starting to see an inflection point. And I think that we may even have touched on this the last time we talked with you guys. And really where we're seeing this turnaround is in this overall levels of consumer buzz. So this total mention volume of consumers who are engaging with Lululemon. And when we look at this over time, you know, we've previously noted just a slowdown in growth. And I do think that that is reflective of, you know, the current performance in the stock price over time. You can see that, you know, after 2020, there was a little bit of a drop off, a waning in that growth and that consumer enthusiasm surrounding Lululemon. But now on the far right of the chart, you can see, you know, in 2022, we're starting to see some momentum build again. You know, mentions are up about 59% year over year. A lot of this is driven by new product launches from things like shoes. You know, they're expanding their running line. They're expanding even the line for things like hiking. They're introducing new styles, new colors, and we're seeing a lot of mentions from consumers who are indicating that, you know, they're going back and they're buying another pair or a new style or another item that Lululemon is now covering. So I think for us, you know, this is definitely something that's caught our attention because it does show us that, you know, I think that maybe the market is, you know, counting Lulu out a bit, and our data doesn't necessarily support that. You know, we do see consumers almost getting re-energized with this brand.
Megan, this company, which started out with women's leggings and yoga, is now expanding into so many different things. Women's now running shoes. I'm sure men's, they're getting into several men's things. They're getting into golf, tennis, hiking. But just as impressive is the growth that they're doing. They're now up to 579 stores, 5 more this year, and now they're opening 2 in Spain. So Asia and Europe is where they're growing. But my question is this, Megan. This brand, is it called Voree? That you have on your chart? Tell us about that, because I can't even see the dot. It's so small on there, yet this dot that is so small is in the top right corner. So compare Voree to Lulu and Nike. What's the similarities? What's the differences?
So whenever we were looking at this chart, the story behind this is really that, you know, Lulu has carved itself this niche in terms of being extremely high quality and providing really nice items for consumers. And, you know, you can see that Lulu's happiness is higher than Nike. You know, typically whenever we would look at this, you would see Lulu in the top right corner, but that's not to say that there can't always be new competition entering the arena. And Voree is one of those companies that we're watching, because you can see it's a smaller brand. It's got a smaller presence versus Lulu. However, it is in that top right corner. And this is kind of a similar niche in the sense that it's a high price point and also very high quality kind of workout and athleisure wear that consumers are really starting to take hold of. And so this is one that, you know, that dot size that you mentioned, it is very, very small, but that doesn't mean that it's not a threat moving forward. So it's definitely something to keep your eye on, because if you're looking for potential growth, if you want to continue growing, you want to be the one that's in that upper right quadrant on that chart.
And Voree, and also 10,000, and then you got Rowan out there. So all these brands are now at like Nordstrom and some of the higher end stores, maybe where Lululemon isn't. Megan, but I bought a couple of those things, and they're just as good, if not better quality than Lululemon. Is that mean that you're probably going to see a downturn in maybe repeat customers for this brand, or is it so ingrained in us and the quality is so good that, hey, Lululemon, once they have you locked in, nothing else really compares?
We aren't seeing traction in terms of that impact on that Lululemon repeat buyer yet. That's not to say that we won't. And that's definitely a metric that we're tracking. We did before the show, we went in and we listened for consumers who were talking about buying another pair of Lululemons or, buying a new style and just indicating that they made a repeat purchase. And those mentions are up over 100% year over year. So for us, that shows a really loyal consumer base. Another area to check for this type of a loyal consumer base is consumer happiness. And so far we see Lululemon's consumer happiness levels remain really high. They're around 77% positive. And in our universe, especially for the sample size that Lululemon has, that's pretty impressive. Actually, that number is up, I think, 4 points on a quarter over quarter basis. So it's actually improving. So Lulu is consistently producing these high quality items, and they are continuing to bring consumers back in the door. But there is that caveat of these other brands that do, loom as a potential threat that will need to be cognizant of that and be sure to monitor those repeat purchases to see, okay, are they able to steal some market share away from Lululemon? But so far, we're not seeing a big dent there.
Yeah, and I think that Voree brand actually has commercials now, so trying to get their brand out there as far as competition goes. But Megan, we don't have earnings for a couple months here in Lululemon. Looking forward to that. If you had an earnings score for today, still positive because the stock, as I mentioned, pulled back pretty significantly.
I'm coming with two scores for you guys today. We broke down kind of a short-term score, which would be that traditional earnings score. That's a short-term lens. We're pretty neutral. It's almost exactly zero, shockingly. So Lululemon is performing as it should be expected because Lululemon, in terms of just sales growth and whatnot, and consumer loyalty, that it's performed really well. However, from a momentum perspective, this longer term view, we are starting to see some traction. We'd put that score at about a plus 14. So, there's definitely improvement. We are seeing, positive signs from Lululemon. We're seeing strength from its menswear. I think that, that's an area that the company's been focusing on, and we see those mentions up about 50% year over year. We also see continued strength out of digital, and we know that's another really important leg of Lululemon's strategy, with those mentions up about 23% year over year. So we are seeing positive signs of momentum for Lululemon. So we do have an optimistic long-term outlook. However, we are aware of potential threats from new competition entering the space.
All right, so neutral in the near term, maybe bullish there, a little bit more positive long term. All right, great stuff. As always, Megan, have a great day.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right, that's Megan Brantley, Vice President of Research at LikeFolio, helping us break down the data on Lululemon. Kevin,